Let's check in with the listeners.
Hey, listeners.
So, listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Brandon Cooper did.
Brandon Cooper here from Cooperstown,
BC.
Cooper, Pennsylvania. Corn dogs.
He says he's a long time listener, first-time writer. He says, I've been blessed to have surrounded myself with almost all my friends being hardcore gamers. Some of us even begun getting into development and event organization. Obviously, we find ourselves in deep, meaningful, thought-provoking conversations about games in the industry quite often. Well, at 5 a.m. on our way home from a LAN party.
Oh,
a great
Cooper.
question. A great question got asked that I thought would be perfect for the Scoop crew. The question is this: what game or games do you most regret not playing, knowing now that you will probably never go back and play because of time or outdated tech or the story has been spoiled? My top picks were Knights of the Old Republic and Metal Gear. All the Metal Gear games, to which I received, oh my God, you have to play them, but I just know I never will.
Right.
What are your picks?
Sure. This is something that makes some people mad, but there are some video games that age better than others.
Sure.
And trying to articulate or parse out, look, I'm not saying this was a bad game at the time. I get why people loved it, but now going back, it feels clunky and feels old. And some games do and some games don't. And it's not a value judgment. That's just the way things are. Metal Gear Solid is a game that I loved it when it came out. Yeah. I have a suspicion that if I'd never played it and went to play it today, I'd be like, whoa, no.
The original Metal Gear Solid?
That would be my guess.
Is there a good, playable version of that?
There's a game to the GameCube port and the HD.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you can get the PS1 Classic off of the PS1.
I know, but that's still
that's the old
fun
one.
and
well, no, then you can't play the GameCube port anywhere except GameCube. It's not like you can get your hands on that.
I just mean they modernized that game. It's a more modern version.
Well, but it broke it. The whole thing with Metal Gear, the game was built, but then they put first person in, which is like a no-brainer. Yeah, I want to be able to aim down the sights, but then you have the Gray Fox battle where you just back yourself in a corner and go like this. Yeah. And then, there he is. Oh, he's coming over here. Where when you had to run around that was a terrifying battle. Your heart's pounding in your chest. You're like, I'm on my last ration. Where is he? I don't know what he's going to do.
So that's an example of a game that I loved at the time. Yeah. Suspect would not be fun if someone never played it and tried to play it now.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if the impact would still be there, right? Because they're like marionettes too, like their character models. I always talk about I always talk about how that's the game that showed me what games could be and how they could tell a story. And now you go back and it's like they're all squinting and their mouths are always closed and you're like, whoa.
But you can see their breath.
Yeah, exactly.
The Final Fantasy VII character models are like that too. Cloud is just ridiculous. That generation of games, PS1, those games are ugly.
Yeah. When games went 3D, they became they don't age well. We've talked about this before. Where pixel art ages, it's timeless. You know? That's why NES games still look great.
Yeah.
So Justin, what's the game that you wish you had played?
So growing up, I was more of a Genesis kid, and I did get a Super Nintendo. I got one. That's why Super Metroid is my favorite game, but I was late. I was much later to the Super Nintendo, and so I missed all those Super Nintendo RPGs. I never played Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger or any of those games, and
Secret of Mana.
All the Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 I just never got around to. And so they've been ported. We're looking at one of the updated versions right now. And so at least there's options. I could pick up...
Presentation.
Wow, they really updated this.
I could pick up, one of the ports or updated versions, but just realistically, I just know that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's on my list. Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy 6, I've started probably 5 times each.
Sure.
And then I get a few hours into it, and then life gets in the way, and I'm like, I'm never going back.
See, this is the same thing I was telling you before, right? When we did pick your favorite game of all time, you picked Super Metroid, and I was like, that sounds awesome. So I went and bought it on the Wii U and started playing it and had a great time. I'll never finish Super Metroid. When am I going to have the time where I don't need to be caught up on something current to talk about, right? To get to that point of, all right, now I've dedicated all these hours to Super Metroid.
What's the world record speed run on Super Metroid?
Oh, it's so fast. It's well under an hour.
Yeah, so there you go.
Okay, so that's how easy it is? Yeah. I didn't know speed runs were people's first time through games. That it was just if I just look at it a little bit differently, I'll get it.
Yeah, you can beat the original Fallout in 10 minutes if you game it right.
Yeah.
Is this another one of yours, Greg?
This is one of mine, Half-Life 2. I was bored to tears with Half-Life 1, to where I was just like, fuck it, Orange Box. Put in Portal, and I was gone.
Half-Life 1 isn't in Orange Box.
Well, whatever. When I played Half-Life 1 to get to Half-Life 2 to do this,
I played Half-Life 1 on PS2.
Okay.
Yeah, they released it there, but I fell in love with it. I was like, this is so good.
Well, then maybe I'm bored by Half-Life 2 then, because I remember the orange box being one of them. Where's the guy with you got the preacher you running around?
That's Half-Life 2.
Oh yeah,
Whoa,
I was
you
bored
didn't
by
like
that game.
Half-Life
Bored
2?
by that game. Yeah, there you go. Did not. It might have just been I wasn't in the mood for it at the time, and that's why I didn't stick. But I remember at one point driving one of these dumbass cars around, and I'm just driving around in like an empty wasteland. No one's there. I finally saw a tunnel. I drove down the tunnel. There's one dude at the end of it. I hit him with the car. I was like,
Greg, as soon as we're back
out.
from B-roll.
Yeah.
I like the one part of Half-Life 2 that like goes pretty much universally like this is not good is the speedboat scene, right? The hovercraft.
Okay.
Which goes on way too long.
The boat's bad, but I like the buggy stuff where you're getting out at the different little houses.
Yeah, you do like you have to drive from like encounter to encounter, but like it didn't bother me. I loved every second of the game.
That's a fantastic game.
Boring. It's a boring game.
I'm very much like anybody can have their opinions, but
Except for Greg. Greg cannot.
No.
you can have your opinions. But Half-Life 2, it's just I've never heard anybody say that before. That's all.
Well, that just goes to show that there's someone out there that hates your favorite game.
Yeah.
Like no matter who you are, no matter what game it is, someone hates it.
Dan, what's a game you regret playing and will probably never go back to?
Regret not playing. Yeah.
Right, regret not playing. Yeah, sorry.
It's a different list.
Yeah.
And for me, it's probably The Witcher 1 and 2. Like I never got around to those. Like the Wild Hunt is coming. It looks amazing. Like it's this giant open world. It looks much smoother than the first two did in terms of just playing through it. Like how the combat works and everything. They seem to have learned a lot. Like I picked up The Witcher 1 and started playing it for a little while, but it does have a little bit of that. Starts out really really hard and then gets way better. And I just didn't have time to get over that hump at the time.
Sure.
So I kind of went on by, and then Witcher 2 came along. I'm like, oh, this looks really good. I should go back and play the first one. Oh, when am I going to have time to play like a 30 to 40 hour RPG that is a couple of years old? And now that problem has snowballed. So I hope that the Wild Hunt doesn't really require me to play that. And as a bonus, the original Rome Total War I never played. And that
there for you.
Yeah, that one. Ding, 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 ding. That one is highly revered, but like it doesn't hold up that well, and like graphically, it just doesn't look very good anymore. And the newer ones, like I've actually never really gotten into a Total War game. I wish I had played Rome Total War the first time, the original one, so that I could have gotten that foundation and gotten in there early.
Mine would be a more recent game. Mario Galaxy 2.
Oh, okay.
When that came out, I was in full-on don't give a fuck about the Wii mode. Never wanted to pick up that nunchuck again ever for the rest of my life. Everyone, talks about this is not Mario. Is this Mario Galaxy 2?
It doesn't strike me.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah.
No, there's the thing. Yeah, that you shoot out of.
Anyway, so everyone,
Oh man, we almost dimed out Oransky, but he had it today. He had it up his sleeve the whole time.
everyone talks about how good it is. It might be better than the first one. If they made an HD remake on the Wii U, I'll totally play that.
Mario Galaxy 2 is probably the best 3D platformer ever made.
I'll totally play it on the Wii U, but I couldn't bring myself to play it on Wii.
Sure.
Just a couple more emails here before we have to bounce this week. This is from Jonathan Kirst. This question is for whoever is sitting next to Greg this week.
Oh.
Does it ever make you feel uncomfortable the way he reclines and rests his arm behind
It's
you?
always you and I on this couch.
I notice this every week. I just can't help but wonder. Sorry if this makes you self-conscious, Greg.
I don't care.
This is
People
obviously
understand that we're all best friends. Sometimes more than friends.
Greg Miller's
here.
self-conscious.
Sometimes more than friends at IGN.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, how do you think I keep moving on up in this company?
It doesn't bother you, Justin?
No.
Greg is barely self-aware. Doesn't really have a concept of object permanence.
Yeah, I'm just like, what? I'm just drifting through it, man. Doing my thing. Corn dogs.
The last thing I want to bring up is a study on violent video games recently released by...
What kind of hack university would do this study?
the University of Missouri. Did you see this already?
Yeah.
Damn it!
I work in the same industry and office as you. Of course, I get the same emails.
You would have just guessed.
Well, I thought I was.
I totally set it up to screw over my alma mater.
Did you read this?
No, Colin talked to me about this morning.
So, a doctoral student at the MU School of Journalism examined the coverage of violent video games throughout the 1990s by GamePro magazine, the most popular video game news magazine during that time period.
Okay.
His findings is that video gamers have become more tolerant to violence as video games have become more lifelike. But all he did was study...
He just read
GamePro in the 90s.
Yeah.
So is this some kid that's like, I just want to read GamePro for a month?
I hope that's who it was.
I think that's hilarious. I mean, he's probably right, but like the area and the media that he studied is so weird and like not really applicable. I don't know how applicable that is to today.
No.
And define tolerance to violence and what that means. It's like movies are violent too.
Peralt found that despite this increase, as technology improved throughout the 1990s, new gaming systems such as the Nintendo 64 and Sony PlayStation were released, along with the capacity for higher levels of graphic violence. Peralt found that despite this increase, the levels of concern about violence from GamePro journalists decreased.
So GamePro used to be the kid magazine, right? But then, with the man. But then they tried to change that a little bit too. They wanted to go after EGM and make sure that they so that could account for like their editorial standards changed of like, hey, this game might be too violent for you, and then they dialed back some of that language, if I remember right, in the 90s. So.
I just thought that was interesting. I wouldn't have paid any mind had it not been from Greg's.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Colin wrote it to me in like broken English today. He's like, is Mizzou State, Missouri your school? I'm like, what? And I had to explain the differences of campuses, and he's like, University of Missouri. I'm like, yes, well, that's English. Yes, that is my school. My jam.
That's all the scoops we have for you this week. Viewers, listeners, remember, we will be at PAX East next week. If you're going there, you are required to join us for our meet and greet Friday night, 7 to 10, immediately followed by the GameScoop panel, 10:30 p.m. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Dan. My name is Damon. This is ign-game-scoop.